Hello everybody and welcome to episode 56 of Competitive Magic with the Carnies. I'm your host from Italy, Andrea Mengucci, and joining me as always we have Javier Dominguez from Spain.
Hello everyone.
And Anthony Lee from Australia.
Hola.
The Carnies are back. We have had a day of break. We had some celebrations. Do you celebrate Halloween in Australia? You do, right?
It's very contentious. Some people do, most people don't, and some people are very against the fact that it's celebrated at all because it is, after all, an American tradition. So, some people put up signs with very colorful language expressing their disapproval of the holiday. So, I would say not really, but some people do.
Okay. After
right.
no. After you pull up the kangaroo Christmas joke on us, I'm gonna try to call you bluff.
What?
I think that's
that's
a lie.
You think that we do celebrate Halloween? We have nothing to be afraid of.
Okay, I still think you're lying. I don't know why, but I get the feeling that you are lying somehow. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna call you bluff here.
I'm not lying.
Yeah. Here, I would say there is a holiday, it's called All Saints Day, and children go around and ring bells to ask for candies and things like that. And I would say that they do celebrate Halloween here.
Okay, my school was named after All Saints Day, so I didn't know it was your equivalent of Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same day almost, like it's 31st of October versus the 1st of November. So.
Oh, fair enough.
I think it's like they're reunited basically.
Well,
all right.
It's convenient here because it's like if you go out on Halloween or whatever, the next day is like also like a holiday, so they kind of combo with each other. They have synergies, like secret synergies between different festivities from different cultures. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure. What did you guys do this weekend? Did you do something fun? Did you play some Magic? Did you travel?
Oh, well, I went to a wedding, actually. So I did not play Magic.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a wedding with some Magic players, but I managed to not play any Magic game during the whole wedding process. I went like one day before to be with friends or whatever, but it was good. I got to socialize, to eat a lot. I actually ate so much. I'm like now on a diet because I feel like, I went too far. Yeah. But other than that, it was good, to just be with friends, and we just didn't play any Magic. It felt like a tournament in a way, but no tournament. Instead, just friends and celebration. So yeah, it was good.
I just followed the Aussies.
Where you go? Oh, right. Yeah. It's like a tournament where you do poorly, so you just go immediately on the dinner.
Javier doesn't know what those are like, so it's. That's not very helpful now.
I am very good at going 0-2 drop. I actually think it's a decent result if you are like, traveling with friends or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely like a tournament, but you don't have to, bring the deck, build your deck or a test before. So it's like a tournament all in the trip.
I remember last time Javier came to Four Seasons in Italy, I remember you lost so quick that I don't think I've even, you just left the room and just went to visit Bologna on feet or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Started eating.
Yeah, I went for a walk and randomly ended in a place. Yeah, it was good. So, I guess a lot of things in life are like tournaments if you think about it that way, right? So I'm glad I just went through this. Yeah. All right. Well, Anthony said he followed the DRCs. What happened this weekend in the DRCs? Oh, well.
There was the one in Australia and the one in mainland China. The mainland China one was pretty easy. I saw that our former teammate Mu Yuhan, Binu, did very well. He finished at the top of the Swiss, but didn't make it through. But it was cool. He was only playing. He actually needed to win. I think he was already qualified for the Pro Tour. I'm not sure who actually won. If you can check on that for me.
Wow, Waste Not made the top 8 over there.
Yeah, I mean that's actually picking up a little bit.
Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the decks. So kind of like whatever we were talking about, I screen share with the guys on Discord, and it's all recorded. The finals was between
Rakdos Midrange and Rakdos Sacrifice. and in Australia, Brett Gervin won with Boros Heroic, which is pretty cool. He LCQ'd in, and then he also didn't lose a match in the whole tournament. So that's pretty dope, right?
That's pretty good. Also, like
With the same deck?
Heroic
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Like Heroic is a deck that's presumably not good against Rakdos and good against the rest, but he just went through, right? Like I assume
I mean,
he
there
played
was a lot
against
of
a few
Rakdos.
Rakdos. Yeah.
Must have, yeah. So, congrats to Brett and all the other people who also qualified from this RC. There's quite a few nice ones here, right? I see in 5th place there's Willow, and they made the finals of the previous one. Nice, and they had deferred their invite from that PT, and so they were already qualified for this one, and that meant that it passed down to 9th place. Michael Russell, who's qualified 3 for 3 in RCs now that he's played, I believe. So that's very impressive as well. Yeah.
Is it Phoenix? Just you learn one deck and that's all you need.
Apparently. Half the top 8 is all from one testing team, which is also quite impressive. James Larson Scott, Dylan Kikawa, Dennis Mullins, and Matthew Judas are all from the same group, so they really killed it this event, which is really impressive as well.
I like this deck.
Well, naturally, yeah. I talked to Jim Wilkes, who's on their team, and I believe leads their team. If he doesn't, I guess he does now because I said it, and that makes it true because it was said on the internet. And yeah, we talked to them about how to build and play with the deck. So you'll see that they have chosen the path of wisdom. You see, I will say, I wish to highlight that the 2 people who qualified with Black-Red mid-range in this tournament were the 2 who did not play Black Thief Cliffs or Colligan's Command. Okay, there is a 1-to-1 correlation with not putting these cards in your deck and qualifying for the Pro Tour. So think about that, any Black-Red players out there, okay? Think about it very carefully.
In few months, it's time to play Rakdos Midrange again at the PT Chicago. It's going to be Pioneer, it's official. And yeah, it's Pioneer.
Are you happy about Pioneer, Mengu?
Already. No, but I will start testing it because, there's something about playing Magic for fun, and then there's the Pro Tour. And when it comes to the Pro Tour, the fame of, the glory of doing well at the PT, of winning the PT or chaining PT invites, it's bigger than having fun playing the games. So whatever the format it is, I need to play it because my goal is bigger than just enjoying the games. Yeah.
It's interesting to me you present it in this way instead of the fact that it being the tournament format. Going for that stuff is fun. I think I don't know if I would frame it that way where it feels like they're separate things. I think it. I mean, obviously, I understand what you mean in terms of doing stuff purely for the games in of themselves. But I think, I don't know. I think the fact that you have to try really hard against other people who are trying really hard is what makes a lot of Pro Tour preparation fun. Not the end result.
The testing process of Pioneer will definitely feel to me worse if I had to test for when I had to test for the Vegas sealed event. It was a blast. All I had to do was drafting. I didn't even practice sealed because I just wanted to focus on the thing that was the most fun to me. So it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to practice Pioneer, then I have to play with these lopsided matchups and things like that, which I really dislike. But again, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the good things of the format.
Yeah,
the deck
for
diversity.
Sure.
The deck diversity is definitely the best thing that Pioneer has to offer. Every event, it's super diverse. The top 3 decks, the top 3 most played decks always have an under 1% lower 50% win rate. I guess if you don't count the draws, like we said last time, right?
No, but yeah, this is to me important. This, if you see this field, it's a field where you should be extremely happy to be playing Rakdos because it's humans and Phoenix, which are supposed to be somehow good matchups, and Green Devotion is not bad. All the bad matchups for Rakdos are not barely not played. Yet still the deck didn't perform. Sure, there's 2 in top 8, but it was the most played deck by quite a bit. And it just had an under 50%, like 50% barely, whatever. But like this is a perfect
50%.
metagame.
Let's say 50%.
Yeah, 50%. This is still like this is the perfect metagame feel for Rakdos. Like it's as good as it gets, right? If I was playing Rakdos in this field, I would be like he's completely super happy. Yet still the deck does not perform much. Like it's probably
So
just like the deck is not that good enough like anymore, or how do you guys
so
feel about this?
the fifth most popular deck is Boar's Convoke with a very good win rate, and I believe that is a bad matchup for Rakdos, right?
Yeah, it
So,
is. But I mean,
Maybe this
that doesn't
let's
seem
bring
like.
upon
I mean,
Rakdos.
if the fifth most popular deck is enough to dent your win rate so much that you have the field, one of the best fields you can imagine, and it's still not very good.
Yeah.
That's pretty concerning, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's
Yeah,
same
enigmatic
players,
fuck.
It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you said fifth most popular. That's not that many,
Oh no, I know. I was just
Yeah.
I was just saying.
Fifth tied
Yeah,
with the sixth. Like
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, it did do well in the hands of the people. Like, it wasn't only the team that I mentioned, but Zen's team also did well, right? Paul Jackson, Zen Takahashi, Callum Gittins, they all placed fairly well with X2 records or better, right?
yeah, but it's still like a 50.
No, all
50
X2
win
records,
rate.
yeah.
Like it's,
Yeah,
it's,
like
I don't know.
So I mean, like maybe it seems like out of the better players in the field, Rakdos did well. So maybe this is the classic like Murktide Copium sort of thing. But maybe if you're well prepared with Rakdos, maybe it's particularly important to be well prepared with Rakdos.
Well, but it's also like not that like most decks are not that different. Like even but jokes apart, like if you cut one land for another land or whatever, like one slot, it doesn't.
No. I'm not talking about the specific build. I'm talking about like actually playing the deck, like when you play the games.
Yeah, but I also feel like most players are not gonna do much wrong things. Like I'm not sure. Like I think the floor on Black Red is actually high. Like even if you play and Cyber Rakdos not very well, you're still like going to have an acceptable win rate. I feel compared to other decks.
Yeah, you play all good cards.
Yeah, like I think Phoenix, if you don't play the deck well, it's gonna be way worse, right? But I think Rakdos is like,
yes, I agree.
Not like Sacrifice or Phoenix. Rakdos is like very straightforward, and I don't know. I'm just like skeptical of how good the deck is going forward. Like I also think this is like very alarming. I don't know. I see this tournament, and I think it should be very alarming for Rakdos, and definitely like good for Mono Green and the such, because this is also like presumably not a great field for Mono Green, yet it's still did fine. And Mono Green is a deck
that's true. Yeah,
slowly gets better because Mono Green has like a few filler slots, and every time it can get like a new card or whatever, the power level of the deck goes a little bit higher, right? And it can get to a point where the deck actually becomes considerably stronger. Like if it picks up like one more tool in the new set or whatever.
We've definitely seen that, right? Like Polokranos doesn't seem that important or good of a card in its own right, but like it was actually a pretty big addition to Mono Green in terms of how it improved some of its weaker matchups.
Exactly.
So
yeah, I'm thinking of Polokranos.
Yeah, stuff like that really, really stands out. So yeah, I could see that. Like it's just, I mean, it just doesn't ask many specific things to improve. A lot of these other decks do have like steeper requirements for something to be able to make the cut, but Mono Green, not so much. Especially because more expensive cards can also be impactful in Mono Green, right? Like you could totally see like a 4-drop or 5-drop being good in Mono Green, and that's much less likely for the other decks. I think the bar is extremely high there. So yeah, I could see that. Makes sense.
Yeah,
to
we'll
me.
see. I mean, I have not played Pioneer in a bunch of time already, but I think.
I mean, you can tell it's been so long since you last played Pioneer, you literally forgot.
Well, I forgot
how you sideboard.
Yeah, I played one Mox with Phoenix, but I also played it without any kind of testing. So, but yeah, I mean, as Mango said, like diversity is kind of interesting here because it's also like actual diversity in deck selection. Like the decks are trying to do different things, and the power level is actually somewhat flat. So I mean, it's probably my least favorite format, but I kind of want to play it a little bit. Like I'm not like as opposed to play Pioneer as I was in the other points of the year, I guess.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, good for testing, huh?
Yeah, so
yeah.
One of the things that I see in, for example, in Callum Kitten's list is that he plays one copy of Dreadbore, and that's not gonna last very long, as later we're gonna talk about previews of Lost Cavern of Ixalan, but I figured this is a nice transition to that one right now, as they just made such a great upside to Dreadbore. It's crazy. It's called Molten Collapse, and it's a sorcery, and it says choose one, but if you descended, and descend, it's basically a revolt, but it's for both players.
What?
No,
No,
your
if
graveyard.
a permanent card. Oh, never mind. So it's like revolt.
Well,
Oh,
not
It's
if you
like Revolt
discard
in the
as
same
well.
way that it's kind of like Revolt in the same way that Descend is a lot like Cascade.
yeah, but you can discard a card from your hand, for example. I like.
Oh, my point was
Yeah,
just that
okay.
it's not at all like Cascade.
Yeah, okay.
It's just totally different.
Yeah.
Wait, why?
Well, yeah,
Why is
Descend
it
is its
totally
own mechanic.
different?
Let's not compare it too closely to other mechanics. So remember that Descend counts permanent cards, so cards don't include tokens, so you can't. I think that might have been a mistake we made
Oh, wow.
when we first read the spoilers. So sacrificing a treasure does not count as descending, but
That's
it can.
important.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, you can discard to Blood Tithe Harvester's Blood, or just have a creature die normally, or sacrifice a fetch land, and that will all count as descending. So
See, this is why you should listen to Competitive Magic with the Carnies, because we come up with this, very important advices for you to read the spoilers.
yeah, it was really helpful that Mangu really set me up to explain that. So thanks, Mangu. That was
Yeah,
really
this was
forward-thinking
not
of
at
you.
all staged.
Yep.
Just for the people who think it was.
I was trying to
Anyway.
save you. All right, some people can't be helped.
No,
Whatever.
it's okay. It's very good to just, help.
Alright.
Anyway, destroy. Choose one. You destroy target creature or planeswalker, so literally Dreadbore, or destroy target non-creature, null and permanent with cost mana value 1 or less. So, in the terms of Pioneer, what are the non-creature permanents that cost mana value, that have mana value 1 or less? So, the first one comes to mind is the Witch's Oven.
Yep.
What else there is? The Boar's
That's
Combo
basically
cards.
it. Like in the mirror, sometimes you're gonna be able to like snipe a blood token or something.
Also
but-
chain to the rocks.
The
I mean,
Boros-
there's a clue
Yeah.
from
The
Boros
Boros
Convoke
Heroic.
that can actually be like also relevant. There's Vessel
Yeah.
from Grisfang, which is actually like a breaking play
Mhm.
if you ever put it. There's some target set,
Yeah.
but to be fair, if it only was like Witch's Oven, it would already be like a accessible improvement for the matchup. Because
Yeah.
Dreadbore's actually particularly bad against Sacrifice usually, and the Oven is a premium target, so
Yep.
Yeah, you have a legitimate
And-
buyout.
Yeah, and this card is gonna have a lot of older formats implication. In Modern,
Mhm.
this could replace Terminate, because it kills so many things, from, Expedition Map to Hardened Scales, Hammer, Sigarda's Aid, Amulet of Vigor, you name it.
Right.
In Legacy, it kills Carpet of Flowers, which has been a huge problem for the, red and black type of decks. And blue, of course.
Yeah, I think specifically, this is
Yeah.
really important in Modern. Like, I think beyond just noting that it kills those things, I think the massive thing for this is that it is specifically good against decks that people play to beat Black-Red, right? Like you mentioned Hardened Scales and Hammer. This gives that deck ways to interact with those cards, Hammer, Sigarda's Aid, Hardened Scales, whatever, which I think is a really, really big deal in terms of, like, improving Black-Red against the field. Like, it starts to cover its weaknesses at not a very high cost, I think.
And
And
also,
of course,
in-
it's so easy to
yeah.
descend in Modern.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so easy with the fetch lands.
Well, I think there's more into this. Like, I think this card's
Yeah.
it brings to me like extremely good removal for Eternal. Like, definitely one of the best they have ever printed in a way. Because this doesn't only give you a way to interact with like Sigarda's Aid, for example. It actually punishes them for that, which is very different.
Yeah.
Like, if you Leyland Binding someone's Sigarda's Aid, you're trading 1 for 1 or whatever. But if you cast in these and you're killing the Esper Sentinel and the Sigarda's Aid, that's actually punishing them from playing the card, which is much more impactful than actually barely answering the card. And I think that this is where this removal spell has this particularity opposed to like other removal spells that are very good, like Bold, Push, or Binding, where these can be extremely powerful at punishing players and like on certain circumstances. And I think we're gonna see this card a lot in both like Legacy and Modern. Probably not that much in Pioneer or Standard or whatever, because obviously the last line of non-creature null and permanent is like not very impactful there. Still obviously better than Redboard, but I think this card is gonna be, I'm not sure if a staple, but definitely a playable card. Like, this is like a 2023 Abrupt Decay type of card, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
it is-
I think the way I would frame that is that it's not only flexible. Like, we were talking about it mainly because of its flexibility, but like what Javier is pointing out is that it's also actually powerful, right? Like it isn't just that it can kill those cards; it kills those cards and is a 2-for-1.
Exactly,
Right.
2-for-1. Like like if you casting this against scales, you're likely killing the best creature under engine card. That's like unreasonably powerful in that specific match. If you know what I mean.
This might loop back a little, but I was saying, I think when this card was spoiled, I said this is an actually good Colligan's Command, right? Like people play Colligan's Command because they think it's a 2-for-1 against decks like Scales or whatever. This is actually that, like that's playable. Like it's at a rate that's powerful and it's also more flexible.
Well,
so
it's also like the first this completely ignores any kind of color pie implications, right? Like,
yeah, it's a bit strange. I did notice that it's a bit weird. Since when does Black Red get to destroy?
I mean, there's some targeted. There has like a Feed the Swarm card where you lose life and you also like play
it's super hard,
like extremely bad card. Like there's some ways, like there's some edict enchantments or whatever. Like there has been some black ways to kill enchantments where they were like, I guess Invoke Disperse exception, but it was a more like a big effect. But like a removal like this has never been like good enough to be like constructed a staple, but also killed enchantments. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's and certainly and certainly not a Rakdos card. Like this doesn't feel to me like a Rakdos card. This if I read this card, okay, if you tell me the text of this card, and you ask me like, okay, which colors is this card? I will say like, well,
Black,
this
green.
is 100% Golgari. Like this is a Golgari card, right? Like why this card Rakdos and not Golgari? If it feels the Golgari color pie perfectly and not the Rakdos one, like why is Rakdos now destroying like target enchantment that cost 1 and even getting an upset? Like usually you pay a lot of cost, like you play a worse card because you bring the color pie, but here you're getting a reward. Like you playing this potential 2-for-1 wreck the game that kills enchantment. That's strange. I don't know. Like maybe they changed politics on this.
They probably felt.
They did.
They probably felt like Red Black needed some help in
Modern. Yeah, exactly.
Pioneer.
Yeah. It's not. I think what I said was very right. Like it helps Black Red show up some of its bad matchups. So hopefully, Black Red will finally get its time to shine in Modern. I think most people are going to be very excited for that.
Rakdos will become a playable combination in Modern. Yeah, so I would like to, to know more about this like color pie shift, because I do not remember any card like this. Maybe there was, but
well, I mean they changes over time. They experiment with things.
This is a very aggressive experiment, I will say. Like,
yeah, you could say that.
I mean, that's what I feel.
Let's talk a little bit about Modern right now. Javier, as we record this podcast, you will play the Modern Super League in a few hours. But since yesterday night we kind of brainstormed a little bit of what you're end up going to play, which is again, if you're watching on screen is there. It's the 4-color Cascade Bean deck with Shardless Agent and Up the Beanstalk. Very similar version to what I wrote on Channel Fireball about, but there are some key differences. So mostly the reason for you to play this deck was because you were targeting on Rakdos Scam. Is that right? Like your expected metagame of your league is gonna be that.
I think so. I mean, Scam is the best deck, and I said it here. I think this deck is among the ones that I feel better against a Scam when I'm playing, if not the best. So I guess in English you say like I'm putting my money with my mouth is, right? Is that how you say it?
Yep, that's what.
Yeah.
Yes,
exactly. So I'm just I said it here, and I'm actually I think this deck is good enough to against a Scam, and not great against the rest, but definitely decent. And we made some tweaks. Mostly, I just follow Mango's advice on the Dead Gun. I think they are actually smart here, just to have a lot of removal. And I just trimmed Teferi because I don't think Teferi is particularly good in this archetype. I could be wrong here, so I just put them in the sideboard, also because of Cascades. But yeah, I'm excited actually to play tonight and see how it goes.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't know. It feels like every single deck I play with Teferi Time Raveler in Modern, I'm like, this doesn't seem that good. Like it always feels like a main decked hate card against Cascade decks, but not that good of a card. In its own right. Honestly, I just feel that way every single Teferian Creativity, Teferian 4-color. There was some of the deck I played Teferian, but it's just disappointing. He's just consistently disappointing to me.
It's also like this deck is particularly well suited to play against Rhinos. Like this plays a lot of removal against Rhinos, so it's not like you die to Rhinos immediately.
Yeah, I don't need the help.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's good to have Teferi, but I think you can probably beat Rhinos sometimes just playing fair. like just based on the beanstalks and enough like removals or whatever. Like if you beanstalk and then beanstalk again and play Solitude and then Fury, you're fine, against rhinos. Like you just kill the both rhinos and you refill your hand. Obviously, that's like a little bit like scripted, but I don't feel like this deck is bad against rhinos. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm taking a little bit of a gamble, but targeting a scam. But I think I don't know what my opponents will play.
Is that a gamble?
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm excited to play. Like I also think this deck can deliver some cool games, and yeah, I haven't tested it a lot, obviously, but I think I tend to like this type of gameplay as well. These like mid-side, like the long games where the boards are like kind of clogged, but also both players have interaction. I don't know. Yeah, I think the changes are good, but I will tell you afterwards, Mango, if if things worked well, all the theory changes.
Yeah, so some of the things I like a lot in this list that are different than mine, and I want to test them in mine too, is Magmatic Sinkhole. I think that card is, I just didn't think about that card. It looks great, honestly, because you have no use of your graveyard. Super easy to make graveyard with a deck like this, especially with 3 Dead Gones and, of course, like the 12 fetch lands. And you just pay 1 mana, kill a thing, draw cards. It's kind of the dream, and you don't have to splash black for Murderer's Cut.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of action.
It seems way better.
Yeah. I mean, you play Murderer's Cut to kill Elishnorn, but you have 3 Dead Gones in this list, so you probably can, like, get rid of Elishnorn and, like, do all the value, and then they replay Elishnorn. But you exchange it 3 mana for 5 and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. I also have my own Elishnorn. I don't know. I think some of these cards are gonna be very good and depending on the matchups. But yeah, Sinkhole. I saw Tristan played like I think Sinkhole and Set Rift. I don't like Set Rift much. I mean I played in Phoenix back in the day, so I think the card has some uses. But I also didn't think of these cards. But I think Sinkhole just agree. Like it just seems very smart. Like I mean, if you kill one Seoldred for 1 mana, that's like that's very good. Like even if you draw cards, it's even better. But like yeah. I don't know. I want to try these cards as well. Honestly, maybe Sinkhole should be a 2-off, but without playing with the card, it's hard to tell. So I just went for the safe, safe direction. I call this like defensive deck building, where I'm trying to not mess up too much. But yeah.
Another thing I like is the sideboard, the Curse Totem and Ranith Magistrate. So instead of going for the for example, the 4-color Rhinos deck had 2 Granite Magistrate in the side, where you would side out the Crushing Footfalls in the Living End matchup and bring in the Granite Magistrate. You probably just bring an extra Magistrate against anyone playing Cascade, and you might just randomly cascade it as your 3rd card after 2-up the Beanstalk, but you're still happy about that. Or
yeah,
just draw it.
Exactly. I mean, ideally, you don't get it on the first Cascade somehow, like. Unless you have a lot of cascades, like you want to have the beanstalk going first. But definitely 1-1 is much. I mean, there's a world where you can have like 3 beanstalks and 1 magistrate, so you have a better chance of hitting it, like in the second try or whatever. But yeah, I guess against Living End you can do that. But like even if you have a hate piece, you still want to have the beanstalk. This deck is built to be like, triggering beanstalk all the time. Like the plan is just you want to do beanstalk into Beach Elemental every game. So I don't want to overload on like these cards. Obviously, the core Firewalker is an exception because against that matchup, you always want Firewalker over a Beanstalk against Burn.
Yeah.
But I think the matchup against Burn is not very good, and I also, I don't expect that much Burn, and someone show us with Burn. Yeah. Well, I will probably not win, but I will try my best with the Source Allegations. Yeah. Probably not winning.
And the 4 Omnats.
I mean, that's modern, Yeah. You gotta accept some free losses. That's,
exactly. I mean, the 4 Omnaths, Mango kind of talked me into them, but I think it makes sense. Like, Omnath is pitched so often in this deck that you don't mind that much throwing 2. And I think Elf is actually better at being proactive than Omnath in this deck, but sometimes things go south, and Omnath is like so important to catch you back that, yeah, I mean, I think he's right, and I'm just gonna play 4. Let's see how it goes today, but I think I like it.
Yeah, that's kind of it about Modern. What if we just start talking about the previews of Lost Cavern of Ixalan?
Sure.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Now he was showing Mono Black on the screen. I played a little bit of Mono Black covers. That's actually what I
Yeah.
played, but I didn't like the feeling of the deck much. I played a little bit of this deck, like the old version before, like the Proteus and the such, where what it had like Invoke Despair on those cards. I think this deck is decent. Like I think it's like I can see why this deck wins, but I think Anthony said it well last week, where this deck is good, but it lacks so much flexibility. Like if you play against a matchup where removals are bad, if you have no flexibility because the it's very hard to cyber well. Mango has a different version that's fixing a little bit of that, but still the deck is not very flexible anyway. And I just like in the Modern Super League, I think the running into matchups like that is just too bad because I think Fall Color, even though it loses a lot to some decks, it still has a lot of like nut hands with double beanstalk on turn 3 and then you pitch and then you draw and then whatever. So that's why I declined to play this deck. But definitely, I mean, if you expect a lot of creature decks, it's definitely very good. But I think the lack of flexibility makes this deck a little bit vulnerable.
My idea of mono black coffers is that just like most decks in modern, someone makes a deck and it's just an endless net deck. It's like basically Tron. Like before you guys came up with the 1 chromatic star, 4 ring in the main, 4 stone in the main, everyone just had like the same Tron list for years, right? And I feel like it's very similar to mono black coffers, but I think that there is definitely some innovation to be made. Like for example, the most important one I think is the sideboard. Like you just end up having a million removal spells and you play against, I don't know, combo decks or 4-color decks and you just don't want all these removals. So I wanted to have a more cohesive sideboard and also a less big card package. So you can't have both basically.
Well, yeah, you definitely can't have both, but yeah, it's tough to imagine. Like the thing is, like you have like 14 removal spells, You have 15 sideboard cards, They can't all be things that you swap, even if you don't have card at all.
Some of the removal spells are very versatile, like March can kill Teferi, for example. Or, Shielded Edict also can do that.
Yeah, you can leave them in your
Push can
deck.
kill Omnat.
Like, you can leave them in your deck, but it doesn't make the deck good in the matchup. Like, that's the issue.
Yeah,
like,
I think this happens a lot, though, right? I think this is actually something worth noting, because you get this response a lot of the time where players are like, oh, you can do this, where, you can legally cast the card and it will have text, but that doesn't make it acceptable or good, I think. Like, you can March a Teferi, but I think I'm probably losing every single game where I do that. Like, I can't imagine that I March a Teferi and that I'm winning that game. Because it means
the fun...
like, Teferi doesn't do anything against the deck.
Yeah, the fun part about playing this deck against 4-color is that all you need to do is to put Sundering Titan on the stack. And
yes.
it's really that funny. Like, you just need to go Karn at some point, get a Titan, eventually you draw 1 coffers, and you play the Sundering Titan on turn 6 or whatever, and the game ends.
That is
yeah,
not
it's
easy
really
though for
brutal.
sideboard. Like it's similar to Tron, right? Where sticking your Karn is actually not that easy. Like they have commandeers or whatever they're gonna have. Like they're gonna have interaction.
Yeah, that's why I like some of the duress. I believe that again there is a lot to explore, and I'm not saying that Mono Black offers easy, amongst the best deck. Although it keeps on winning. Most some events I attend, like the last 2 events I attended, were both won by Mono Black offers. So the deck definitely, it's putting up results. And if it's like, I think I put it 10th in my Modern Power ranking, and I believe it is.
It definitely it's a solid deck.
About there.
Like I was considering playing it for the Modern Super League, right? So that's, I will only play a deck that I consider good for this event. So, but I think that the issues are like too exploitable, especially if it's kind of expected. Like I assume some of my opponents might actually consider playing this deck or see me playing this deck. So they might have a plan against, playing a deck that's good against coffers. That will be very bad for me as well. Even cyber cards, the classic, like they put some cyber cards against you, like they put 1 Veil of Summer, and then your deck is actually way worse because whenever you draw it, it's very impactful. So yeah, that's another issue with this deck. Like this deck is decent now. If it becomes a, kind of like a decent tier 2 deck that's played in most tournaments a lot, it will be rapidly become worse because I think the cyber cards are actually fairly good, depending on how you craft your deck, obviously. But yeah.
Mango, you mentioned there was a lot to explore. And speaking of explore,
wow.
Yeah, we have. Let's go. Let's start. So
we've
already talked about Molten.
The new cards.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about Molten Collapse, and again, we're gonna see a lot of this card in the format. Okay, so Anthony mentioned the Explore mechanic. There is actually going to be a combo in Pioneer that is super easy to make. The combo involves the card Amalia Benavides Aguirre.
Aguirre.
Is that correct?
Right?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
kind of
correct?
correct. Yeah.
Rolling?
You say
kind of correct.
yeah, it's very close. It's Aguirre. Yeah, but that's very similar. Yeah, good
Aguirre.
enough, Mengu. Well
Not
done.
bad.
Well done.
It's a black and white 2/2 and has ward pay 3 life. Whenever you gain life, Amalia explores. Explores, for those of you who don't remember, is reveal the top card. If it's a land, you put in your hand. If it's a spell, you leave it there or put it in the graveyard, and the creature gets a +1/+1 counter. So whenever Amalia explores, whenever you gain life, Amalia explores. And then you destroy all other creatures if its power is exactly 20. So what they did was they kind of put a roof on how big this card can get, right? And you have a combo with Wildgrowth Walker, a card that has reunited all the Carnies together. 2 mana, 1/3. Whenever a creature you control explores, you put a +1/+1 counter on Wildgrowth Walker, and you gain 3 life. So you gain 3 life, you trigger Amalia, you explore, you put a counter, you gain 3 life. And then when Amalia reaches 20 power, it's gonna kill everything, involved also the Wildgrowth Walker. So you're gonna remain with Amalia in play as a 20/20. You have drawn a bunch of lands, and you pass the turn. Or rather, you attack.
Or maybe you get to attack.
Yeah.
With your 20/20. Because it destroyed all other creatures, that would be able to block
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah, I was going to say, you did the thing, so now you either pass if it doesn't summon in sick, or you attack. Actually, you can maybe explore in the graveyard an effect that gives haste. I don't know if there's like an Anger or a Dragon Breath in the Pioneer type of card.
Could be.
That might be. Yeah.
So there's the card with Jumpstart. You discard a land, you give haste.
Oh, maximize
red.
velocity. Yeah.
But that's too many colors, maybe. I'm sure there's something else. But anyway, you can give it haste because you're exploring, so you can do this at least 18 times. So if this card is at the top 18, you can put it in the graveyard, basically. And
yeah, I mean,
this
is super interesting, right? Like
you can combo on turn 3.
Yeah. Something that's worth noting is that you can once you have these two pieces, you still need to do one more thing. You either need to explore or you need to gain life.
Oh, right. That's true.
So it's not don't just put these two into play. That would be kind of stupidly broken. But so it's not that hard, but you do need to do one more thing, right?
Oh, okay.
I imagine gaining life is easier, but I'm not sure.
Not that easy though.
It's
not that easy.
Yeah.
I will say
it's not trivial. You do have to do something.
Light of Hope against 4 life for 1 mana.
Yeah, but then you're playing Light of Hope. That's the issue. Like the trick here is playing.
The one I think might be decent. I'm thinking more like Tamiyo's Safekeeping. Because that's like a card that protects your combo piece and also incidentally gains life, for example.
Yeah, but
doesn't it gain 2 life though?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
2 life only.
Well, so what?
You only need
you gain 2 life, and now your Wildgrowth Walker triggers.
Oh, sorry. I thought you need to gain 3 life. Okay.
Nope.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to approach this. Like,
then even like a Soul Warden effect.
Sure. Yeah, like Prosperous Innkeeper.
You could have a Soul Warden effect. There's a lot of ways to approach this.
Or
it's gonna be tricky because also it could happen that the combo is not good enough. Like we'll see, but like it's gonna be hard to build a good deck, like a deck that has this combo but is good enough to compete in Pioneer. It's still like a Thoughtseize, Fatal Push / combo
okay.
format,
I have a turn 3 kill. I mean, I'm sure many people came up with it, but you go turn 1 Lunarch Veteran, turn 2 either Wildgrowth Walker or Amalia, and then on turn 3 you play Amalia, you self-mill into the Maximus Velocity, and you attack.
Well, yeah.
Well, for example, in that case, yeah, I mean, you don't even have to have like a Talon Lunarch Veteran, because for example, you can play Prosperous Innkeeper. Then you won't have then you won't be able to maximize velocity. But if you just played the Amalia on turn 2, it doesn't matter, right?
Exactly.
So if you play turn 2 Amalia, turn 3 Prosperous Innkeeper plus the Wildgrowth Walker, that's lethal, right?
But basically,
you just have to have the Amalia turn 2.
Yeah, but it's a combo that's like you do all these, they cast Fatal Push, and then you have nothing.
It's very sad for you.
Like you have,
So that's the tricky
yeah,
part.
but
it's
you have the safekeeping that gives you life.
what I'm saying is the fact that it doesn't kill
And,
right away
and
makes like it's very problematic. The cards are very unique. Like you cannot play eight of each or whatever. Like I see a lot of buts, so I think we might see this working, but it's not very likely, right? That this ends being like
It's very like the power level is super high, but it's extremely hard to achieve. Like I think the fact that what Javier points out where the cards are not replaceable, like it's not like you just need a whatever. You need exactly Amalia plus exactly Wild Growth Walker, and then you need a third thing. So the third thing is like not hard to do, but the issue is that you need to put enough of them in your deck to have it once you have these two cards already. And suddenly it seems like we're asking for a lot. So we need to have gotten both of those cards we need to have drawn both those cards, gotten them into play, not had them die, gotten our third trigger. Because, sometimes there will be games where you just don't have one in time because it might cost mana or something. And then your opponent needs to not have a way to just kill the Amalia, like, once you combo, right? So
that is a lot.
It's a lot.
Like if you had to, if it was a 3-card straight win the game, that would be a different thing. Like if you win the game straight, there's a lot of upsides. But here, the fact that you have to command into attack probably means this is not gonna be good enough. I also seen the power 20 clausule. They probably knew about this combo. Probably.
Yeah, it might just. I don't know if it was just a generic safety valve because they thought this sort of thing might be.
Yeah, but it's still like this.
But yeah,
the more I look into it, like I don't think it's gonna be great. I mean, definitely people will try, and if it's good enough, we will know. But I see too many downsides. I guess this will be good if like there's like a deck that has enough like explores. Like you have to make this card good and Walker good, maybe. But it's not easy.
Yeah, well, I think at least one of these cards has to be enough of a real card for you to be
by
happy
itself,
with it.
Exactly.
So like, yeah, I could see it just being like, I think the gain life thing is easier to do than the explore cards are all costed for standard, right? Yes. It's just not that likely, but
yeah, we'll see.
I think maybe you can. I don't know if there's some white-black life gain deck and then you splash Wild Growth Walker. Maybe that's the approach that I would try to take, but. Yeah, I don't think this is super promising, but I think it'll definitely be very interesting to explore.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
It sounds fun to try, also. But the issue is, opponents are going to be playing Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, and Fable, so it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead with another card that I've been asked a lot about on stream. It's Tishana's Tidebinder, and it's two in a blue for a 3/2 with Flash. And when this card comes into play, you counter up to target activate ability, so that is a fetch land, for example, or if an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker, so it is a non-land. So let's say if you're stifling a planeswalker ability, is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as Tishana's Tidebinder remains on the battlefield. So if your opponent plays a Grist, upticks it, and you go Tishana's Tidebinder, you will not only stifle the ability to make the token of Grist, but you will remove that ability forever.
Well, all abilities, not only that one. All the abilities, not only that one.
Oh, even the -2?
Yeah. It loses all abilities.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I hope
so,
that happens.
I mean, I don't know. This doesn't seem like a card that would be playable in Modern, but it seems very interesting for Standard, I think.
I think that the ability to counter a fetch land, I think is great. Like, that's just a very common situation to happen.
I mean, is this even better than the Amonkhet 3/1 with cycling at countering fetch lands? It's worse, right?
Yeah.
It's a creature.
Is it better than Shadow of Doubt? Card. Because, I mean, like, costing extra mana is a massive deal.
This definitely seems way worse than Shadow of Doubt. Yeah.
But, think about this card in Standard. Like, this was really interesting. It was a really interesting thought exercise to think about which cards are really affected by you countering an activated or trigger ability. Because it oddly affects, a very unusual set of cards. I think in particular, this card is really interesting against Domain.
Yeah, Binding
because it basically just counters Leyline Binding, right?
Or Atraxa.
Like you counter that. Yeah, Atraxa. It counters Atraxa's ability. It basically fully counters Invasion of Zendikar, which is that's pretty backbreaking if it happens. I would recommend not countering Toberi Stomper's ability with this. That might be a little too awkward. Since the Stomper will then also lose its drawback. But I think this card's really interesting. Yeah, I think I could see. I mean, you can also take the abilities away from Sheoldred or something as well. There's just so many
wow,
different
that's
applications.
oh
for this.
wow, that's nice. I didn't think of that one.
Yeah,
It mutes.
there's just so much.
Yeah, it like silences or whatever. Like it just blocks you all red. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
And that, I mean, that's a format where like a 3-mana 3/2 flash is like, you know, it's like not a horrible.
Not
rate.
embarrassing,
I think in
yeah.
other formats, like it's just like, I think it's actually just too small for the cost to be playable outside of standard, but it is really fascinating in standard. And also, I don't know, is that something you can use this with? Like, I don't know.
Well, there's
Like you can counter and take away your own abilities. Is that ever good? Like Phyrexian Dreadnought sort of thing, you know? I don't
well,
know if
it
that-
can counter the Lotus Field ability. I don't think it's gonna matter much, but you know, I think this could also be a Pioneer card if they print enough Merfolk cards. There's a lot of Merfolk decent cards in Ixalan. You know, like all
there are some real good ones.
There's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot of mana fixing, some are good ones, and this card could be playable. Also, I think
Ooh,
in
let's talk about
in Pioneer, like I think this card is like if you play this and kill a Fable, you know, a Fable token or whatever, or did you already talk about? Like it's fine. Like you know, you can cut the oven.
Yeah.
Like this is a totally fine card. I think in Modern, where probably people wants to play, I mean, Modern is a format where a 1-drop is Ragavan, and a 2-drop is Void Walker and Bowmaster, and everything else is almost unplayable. Think of a 3-mana 3/2. You know, like I think it's too far.
Yeah, it's real rough.
But I think this card might be a playable card in Pioneer if the you know the situation is right for it. Like there's a lot of like small things you can counter, so maybe it's good enough. I mean, obviously, maybe it can be played in Merfolk or whatever, but because it's a Merfolk, but it will have to do with it being a Merfolk than anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It
to
can
me.
counter a Fury. You think that's important?
Talking about
Anthony, maybe.
It might be.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure because it's also like a little bit weak. Like if it's in play, then it's like another small thing that's
Yeah.
expensive that trades with half a Fury ability. So I'm not sure how that exchange goes. But I mean, it's important that you can interact with it, I guess. But yeah, you know.
That's true. It counters Fury. That's a good point. Talking about fixing a Pioneer, we must mention Cavern of Souls because we somehow forgot last time. This powerful land got reprinted, so you can now fix your Merfolk blue-green or your Spirits blue-white or your Humans 5-color, and they will not be able to counter it, which is, you know, a very good upside considering that there are counters in the format.
Well, the best counter in the format
yes,
is the best one is Spell Queller, right? And it doesn't, so probably not that many. But yeah, I mean,
Doesn't
this is
counter. Yeah, I mean, I know.
still,
Yeah,
yeah, you're right.
This is fixing.
Yeah, definitely a good
Upside
card.
to unclaimed territory. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a good card, but I mean in Pioneer there are very few counters. I think the fixing upside is the one that's relevant. Like we start to reach a critical mass where you get 12 of these between this unclaimed territory and secluded courtyard. So, you know, maybe you can start to get really wild there. Like for example, Abzan Elves can very easily play like Werewolf's Bodyguard alongside the black-green cards if you have, you know, enough of these gold lands. So that's interesting. Again, I think this one is probably most impactful in standard by a lot. For the obvious thing where making an Atraxa uncounterable is a huge deal because the best way to deal with an Atraxa has been to simply disdainful stroke it, and that's very effective. And in the domain deck that has Atraxa, this also fixes for Archangel of Wrath, which is quite relevant as well.
Wow, that's
and
sick.
also makes it uncounterable.
Yeah, wow,
that's pretty funny.
That's
yeah.
very good. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Cavern of Souls
Why?
is probably quite
Are they
meaningful
same
for
type?
that format. Pardon?
Are they same type? Archangel of Wrath and
Yeah,
Atraxa?
they're
Are you
both
asking me if
angels.
Archangel of Wrath and Atraxa are both angels?
They are,
Yeah, I
yeah.
didn't know.
They're very angels.
Angels,
Look at it.
They are
okay.
very, very
They're
angels.
angels,
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think this is definitely going to be good in standard. I haven't seen the spoiler, but I will not be surprised if there's something good against Cavern there because that's how they always do.
You mean like Tishana's Tidebinder?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. This is definitely yeah.
They thought about it.
Yeah, they
So
know.
Tishana Binder.
Yeah.
But
stifles,
I agree this
Atraxa
card is going to
ability.
be good in standard for the reason, but I actually feel like this card might actually change Pioneer. Like, I think the fact that this opens archetypes, that's a strong. You know, like maybe there's a human deck, maybe there's a Merfolk deck, maybe there's a Goblin. I don't know. Like, you know, there are decks that might be just single-handedly enabled by this card. I think.
I'm dreaming of turn 2 Werewolf Pack Leader, turn 3 Mantis Rider. Let's go. Draw a
Yeah,
card.
could be anything.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, we'll see.
What's
but
the first card you said?
Werewolf Pack Leader. You remember him?
Yeah.
Oh, right, the double
Yeah,
green one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is
I
it a
mean,
human?
that is a very good curve, you know? Like,
Oh, it's a human.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go lead
I mean, I know it
over
doesn't
to
look like
Mantis Rider, that is very good against Rakdos. Like, they need to have the push, or Stone Crushers are not going to do anything, and the other cards are going to feel like underwhelming, like Harvesters, whatever.
Like,
so
if you remember, when Unclaimed Territory came out, it kind of quote unquote broke modern humans. Like, that deck didn't exist before. Then only one land came out, and then me and Javier top the PT with humans. Granted, we didn't do well in modern with humans, but it was definitely a deck that didn't exist before that set.
It was unlocked by a land. Yeah.
I mean, Mengu, have you ever made a top 8 with a deck that's worse than that one compared to the format? Like,
you have, Javier.
I do. I know I did, but I think Mengu didn't. So
Mengu, maybe not.
Yeah, like the deck was not very good. Like, let's say it was playable.
I mean, I topated an Arena Pro Tour with Esper Doom.
Oh, but that was not that bad in the metagame, was it?
Yeah, man, it wasn't great, but it was definitely better than humans.
Yeah, humans. We never won a match with it after the PT. Also, we put like some GPs. We just bombed.
I went 6-5 at the PT with you.
Me too, I think. Yeah, whatever.
No, because you beat me. I think you beat me in the like second to last round. So you had whatever. You had a slightly better result.
I think I went 6-5 or 7-4 or whatever, 7-5. But I also beat like 3 mirrors, so it was like, yeah, whatever. So this card can enable new decks that might be not very good because they're humans decks, but also could be like, elves, goblins. I don't know. There's a lot of tribes, merfolks, like. Even some tribe I'm not thinking of now. Even spirits could play more spirits now from different, colors. Who knows?
Yeah.
This card is powerful. Like, yeah, I'm excited for this in terms of brewing, and I think this might be the best Pioneer card from this set. Yeah, from Ixalan.
Yeah. All right, let's continue. Let's continue with the new cards. We have Get Lost, which seems to be an upgrade to Fateful Absence, which is once again a card that was played in Pioneer. It's 1 and a white instant, destroy target creature, enchantment, or planeswalker. Its controller create 2 map tokens. The map tokens are artifact that says tap 1 colorless, tap, sacrifice this artifact, target creature you control explores. So it's a bonus, just like it is the clue token from Fateful Absence. But maybe it's a little less good than drawing a card, and this also destroys enchantment, which could be irrelevant.
Yeah, this side seems good to me. There's not a whole lot to say about it, except maybe I was wondering if there are like ways that destroying your own things to get map tokens is useful. Like maybe there's some deck that if your deck has artifact synergies, that could be good. That's kind of dubious, obviously, but
like find the hidden lethal, right? The classic card.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
It's an upside.
Yeah, there is an artifact synergy. We can segue into that. It's Dragon Runaway Controller. I don't know if this is the actual translation, but this is what Scraffle says. I don't know if you have any more to talk about Get Lost, or you want me to continue.
I mean, Get Lost, like when Fateful Absence came out, it was clear that it was kind of worse than Declaration in Stone for standard formats or whatever. This card might be better, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, like, here's one thing. There needs to be a creature they control for the upside to have anything. So, for example, this is way better against, for example, control decks, right? Like, if you destroy the Wandering Emperor, if they don't have their Samurai.
Exactly.
The maps are just useless, right? I think the flexibility is also very valuable there. This seems like it's very likely to be good in standard.
Like, it kills binding. Especially, I think killing binding is extremely important. I think this card kind of...
Well, just killing enchantments. Like... The enchantments are so good, right? Like, in those mirrors, like, Virtue of Loyalty is totally sick.
But I also think they might be trying to punish binding with this. Like, trying to make a card that's good against binding from aggressive decks. That's what I read here.
Makes sense.
It used to be like enchantment here is put because of binding, but I don't know if that's...
Maybe we don't even need to play black, guys. Like, the big problem with the... blue-white based decks that we tried was that the interaction was like not quite good enough, right? Like we had to like main deck destroy evils, and that's
not anymore.
Yeah, now we have I think this is quite a big upgrade there. Like this could actually change like whether Esper is better than blue-white, for example. I could really see that. So yeah, high hopes will Get Lost.
Good card.
Standard.
At the very least, I like the design. Like. It seems
it's also just a hilarious name. Like it's just one of those that's fun to say,
True. Get lost. Get lost, Anthony.
Your opponent plays a Sheoldred. Get lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's probably their intent, actually.
All right.
I wonder how they'll translate it in
I
So
hope for Spanish it's like pierdete. I don't know. Yeah, like
pierdete. Yeah, sparisci in Italian would be,
yeah,
I think.
be too
Uh,
aggressive. I don't know.
all right. Speaking of artifact synergies, we have this one drop. It's a human soldier, and it's a 1/2. And it says, as long as there are 3 or more counters on it, it has flying and vigilance. And it says, top 3 artifacts and or creatures you control, put a +1/+1 counter on this, scry 1, activate only as a sorcery. So this card is a 1 mana 1/2, and it has synergies with creatures that create artifact, mostly thinking about Throbbing Inspector and what's the other one? The Voldaren Epicure. So what you can do is you play this, then you play, Voldaren Epicure, and you can already put a counter on this and scry.
Yeah, is this good enough though? Like
That's sound. I mean, I think you need multiple activations for that to be good, and that
Yeah.
sounds. I don't know. It's both expensive and
it doesn't sound good, right?
payoff is not that high.
Like tapping the creatures also. If you play in Convoke, I assume you're talking about specifically Convoke.
This is all standard, right? Like Voldaren Epicure is in
Well,
standard.
is this gonna be good in like tapping 3 creatures or artifacts in the standard is a lot unless they have printed like a bunch of inspectors in this set. Like 3 is a lot. Like the wonders are not
Yeah.
great nowadays in the standard, but this seems worse than Skrelf or even Hopeful Initiate, which I'm not a big fan of. But like the cards seem worse than those in most situations. I guess you can do some tricks with Avaline or whatever, but like this doesn't seem good there. And for Convoke, there it's maybe better, but you're aiming to have creatures with haste, right? Or Convoke with a creature, so tapping them from this creature doesn't. I think.
I mean,
I don't think this is good enough. I think this is not good.
Simon top 4 worlds with a soldier decks, playing a lot of bodies.
Well, I think
This is
this
a
card
soldier.
does not belong in soldiers the way I.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally a soldier, but I think it doesn't quite fit with most of how the deck
Seems to be
works.
worse than the other soldiers.
Scry 1. Scry 1.
Well, activate all as a sorcery also. Like, yeah, I don't think this
Mhm.
card's good. Might be wrong, of course, but not a big fan.
Okay,
With the cards I've seen so far, I don't think this is good. I think there's too many creatures, but obviously, if there's like
Okay.
Inspector, that's better, but
So they finished the cycling of lands, the cycle of lands. We had 5 in Wilds of Eldraine, and we have 5 more here. And I think Restless Vents looks like the best one. It is, of course, red and black. Comes to play tap, and then it says tap 1 black and red, so a total of 3. Until end of turn, this becomes a 2/3 with menace. And when it attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. And I'm thinking about Rakdos Pioneer, which, would love just creature lands, because flooding is an issue, and this card even gets you there with a rummage effect. I think it's very good for Pioneer Rakdos. What do you guys think?
Well, the effect is to rummage and Rakdos is particularly valuable, of course, but I mean that's why we play cards like Harvest and Fable. But I mean, tap lands are really expensive. I think really, really expensive, and we already do have access to a bunch of creature lands already, right? Like you can play Hive, then if you're willing to make some other sacrifices, you can play Mutavault, and I'm not sure whether that is a good thing or bad thing for this card. Because maybe there's a critical mass thing where you can just play so many of this effect that you can start to build around it, but I'm a little bit skeptical of that, and I'm very wary of adding any tap lands to the deck. Like, I already don't like Black Recluse, right? So...
Yeah, so I'm thinking about, of course, Pioneer is different than Standard, but maybe this can work also in Standard. But there was that PT that was won by, I believe it was Simon Gertzen, who played 28 lands Jund, and he had 4 Raging Ravine, 4 Lava Claw Reaches. So maybe with this very powerful lands like the Black Green and the Restless Vents, which actually helps you if you flood, you can play like these 3-color decks. I remember you mentioned Questing Druid, like Jund million lands deck in Standard now, like just
I think,
because
the bad news here is this is 2023 and the power level of the cards is high enough that I think you die if you flood. So like I think this card the stats are a little bit too small for you to make a deck like this. I think if this was as powerful as Cottage, we could consider doing something like this, but I think the ratio is just like not enough. I think the
Um,
the land is good. The effect is fine. It's notably 1 mana cheaper than the Hive and the Den, right? So
Mhm.
yes,
that's definitely a thing.
it's something. It's in a different spot in the curve.
Yeah, exactly. But I think
yeah.
this doesn't look very good to me. I mean, maybe it's a one-off over the Hive because you can absorb some of the tap lands like in that deck. But also the fact that Ramatch is good, but I mean, for this cost in Pioneer, you could also just draw a card whenever, like the Session Pyromancer style. Like if you have no cards to draw a card, I think
No.
it will take that for this card to actually be good enough for
Oh,
Pioneer.
okay. You're saying if it did that, it would be...
If it did
okay,
that, yeah. I mean, it could do that, right? Like
Right.
you're playing 4 mana, so
Right.
it could be then
Yeah.
one of the best ones, I think. But still,
Yeah, although what I think Mengu mentioned standard as well, which is maybe the format where that's for which is least true. Like if you flood in that format, it's not necessarily a death sentence. But there, I think this would not be the best pair to Restless Cottage as a tap land that you can play. I think the hidden cards are much better. The
hidden cards,
the Discover lands, the uncommons, I think.
The new ones. Well, I have not thought about the Cascade ones. The ones like Discover.
The Cascade ones, yeah. Aren't they like completely sick with Blossoming Tortoise?
Yes, they are actually. Maybe they are.
That seems like way better than this card.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, this
card. Great.
I will have to play with those, but I could easily see these cards being actually better than most of the creature lands. The exception being
so. Let's explain them.
Like Cottage.
I mean, Cottage is just
is just like I think of this cycle, Cottage is just the best by a lot. So
yeah, out of all 10.
Yeah, I think past Cottage. Yeah. There's a lands we talked about them last episode, but they're like tap lands, 1 color, and they just discover for 4 if you pay 5 and sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
pay 5 sacrifice, so 6 total.
For me, these are like 1 mana too expensive, I will say. Like at first,
Blossoming Tortoise makes them cost less.
Yeah, but at first I thought it was like a 5 mana activate, but it's like 5 mana plus tap, so it's 6.
Yeah,
6 is a little bit too much. I mean, we're still talking like a 7 mana, a 6 mana Archangels or whatever, like. So I think that's maybe fine, but the thing is, the card that seems to be working well with this is Tortoise, but then again, Tortoise is playing with Cottage, right? So if you're playing Cottage, you cannot play too many taplants that are not Cottage.
Exactly. I think it's not one you could play many of, especially because they're expensive. But if I was interested in playing a deck with a lot of taplants alongside Cottage and Tortoise, then I think maybe the 1 or 2 of the hidden cards could work, or of Sunken Citadel.
Yeah, I mean, you can just
cards work together.
Play some of like Manland Tribal, where you have the Tortoise and just all these Mishra's factors or whatever.
Yeah. There's a few. I think that this set is good for the Tortoise. Like it's really eating. I think. All these Restless cards are quite interesting. Creature lands in general are really interesting to play with, but I think most of these are quite powerful.
They seem like small, like the blue white, for example. Like obviously it's gonna be worse than Colonnade, but this is like too small.
Yeah,
like it's very small compared to Colonnade, right? Like this creature lands. Yeah, you ideally want these cards to be able to win games on themselves if things go like in the. So I guess the blue black is
to be maybe the blue white. The blue white one might be able to. I mean, it gets bigger, right?
Yeah, the blue black. I don't know. Yeah, also the map, I guess. But I think for me the worst one is the Gruul one. But I think they all. I mean, the green white, by the way, can actually be like big if you have like a swarm deck or whatever. But they all seem worse to me than Cottage, because Cottage also is in the colors that naturally you want to have more creature lands or whatever. So I guess black.
Yeah, I think the Cottage is like, I don't know, that one is kind of an outlier in terms of how powerful it is. Yep. The others are like Cottage is the one that like makes me, I want to play these colors because then I get to play Cottage. And the other ones are like, if I'm playing these colors, then I'm pretty happy to play these cards. But like, it's not a reason that I play it.
It seems like Cottage belongs to the Wallwake cycle and not here, in a way.
Yeah.
I don't remember the green black one from Wallgate, so I guess they're swapped.
That one was Hissing Quagmire.
Hissing Quagmire.
Exactly.
They really made up for that one.
Yeah, this
3
one
mana, 2/2 Death Touch.
Exactly. This 2/2 Death Touch for 3 mana feels like on this set, like on this,
Yeah.
All right.
No, this set is good. I think my take is that Restless Vents will see play in Rakdos mid range. Because we've seen people splashing Mutavault, basically. So by splashing, I mean playing Mutavault and having to change the mana base for it. Restless Vents will help your mana base. Of course, it's a top land, but so it's like a Den of the Bugbear and Hive whenever you don't have in your top 8 cards. So I think that Restless Vents will be played, and Yeah, I think the ability is also good because again, you
Well,
flood a lot and you're naturally holding lands in the end
yeah.
because you might draw Fable. So it's not that you have to change your play pattern like there's actual and blood tokens. So you're actually it naturally plays with the deck. I think it's gonna be good,
Well, one thing I want to clarify,
even in
I have no
sacrifice.
doubts that this is going to be played in Rakdos midrange. Uh, what I have doubts are on is I don't think I'm not sure this is going to be actually correct to play. Those are different, very different things. Like I
Oh,
think,
I was thinking of the same thing, but I was going to say it in a much more a less pleasant way. Yes.
well, that's that's what I'm here for.
Good.
But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
also this is the kind of card. By the way, one more last thing because this is very interesting. This is the kind of card that might play way better than we think. Like, there's a chance that Mango's actually like even underselling the card, like because lands that actually affect the card advantage axis. Um, I think they might like they're not very common. Usually, the lands that are loot or do things they don't attack as much, right? Like either do damage or
Yes.
they do card advantage. In Cottage, we've seen like critting foot is good, so there's a chance this land or even the blue white actually plays way better because I don't think we had like creature lands that
I'm
actually
very optimistic about the blue white one. I think that one to me looks like the most impressive of these five.
we'll see. But
Um,
yeah, it creates value,
yeah,
right? Like, but also the
yeah.
Rakdos one,
It has
maybe it's
multiple
just great.
angles, right?
Like
The
my
multiple angles thing is the massive thing.
yeah, also
I
this
think.
like
Yeah.
I could see Russell
Yeah.
Vance being better than Hive of the Eye Tyrant, for example. We'll see. But Tableon is yeah, I'm just saying like these cards are unique. So we compare to the old ones,
Hmm.
but they're not totally the same, and they might be better than what we think.
Like I'm
I
thinking
can
about
concur.
blue white in Pioneer that plays like a million blue white lands, and just such an upgrade that your fixed land also is a creature land. That I think
We'll
that's
see
what I
if
want to
Blue
say.
White Control is still there after Cavern of Souls. We'll
Yeah.
see.
hmm All right. There's a bunch of good fixing, or at least a ramp in green. Not fixing. Sorry. I guess it. Yeah. So and we haven't seen an effect like this in a long time, and this might change a lot
Yeah, I'm
of things.
surprised.
So it's called Glimpse the Core, and it's a sorcery. It says choose one. You search your library for a basic forest, put into battlefield tap, then shuffle. So this is not like Farseek. You can't get a dual lane. You have to get a basic forest. Or you can return target cave from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Uh, the cave part to me feels like maybe it's. I mean,
Well, the discover cards that I mentioned are caves, right? So, but yeah, there's not that many caves. That
the
yeah.
commons one that you said, and then there's the cave creature land, but you know there's not too many constructed playable caves, but the ramp side is definitely interesting. In Pioneer, you have Nissa's Pilgrimage, which is the 3 mana cultivate for forests. And I remember in Pioneer at the beginning, people were playing ramp. So yeah, this one can just boost that archetype that is not played
I
currently
mean,
in
this card
Pioneer.
seems extremely restrictive. Like basic forest is like makes it so like it doesn't feed the standard domain deck that well. Like
Yes.
it takes a lot. I don't think this card is better than Topper Stomper. Obviously, Topper Stomper is like a very good card in those decks, but I don't think this is particularly good. I assume this will power like two color decks or whatever, but 2 mana such a basic forest, I think it's just fine. And notably, the return to the cave part to the battlefield. Well, if you play the Cascade Caves, this card is particularly bad to hit off the Cascade, so it's also
Oh,
like
yeah, that's very upsetting.
yeah,
Yeah.
like a little bit of flabber
True.
text, I will say. So I don't
Yeah.
think. I
Okay.
mean, this is
Wait,
obviously like playable, but I don't think this card's gonna be
you.
particularly good.
It is very
it's
restrictive.
like a
Yeah.
it's like a time walk, because you just reanimate the same cave.
Yeah, time off for your opponent though. Yeah,
Yeah.
Hey, spend 6, nothing happened, pass.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, and another one that also ramps is called Ixalan's Lore Keeper. It's a 1 mana 1/1 that says tap, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a dinosaur, or activate ability from a dinosaur source. And this is like a Llanowar Elf in a dinosaur deck, I guess.
Well, more like Verse of
Does not
Paradise, notably.
Birds of
Yeah.
yeah, it's a 1/1, but yeah, any
Well,
color, of
yeah,
course.
exactly.
And
Any color is.
what are the powerful dinosaur. Is Topiary Stomper a dinosaur?
Might be.
Don't think. Oh, it is.
It
I remembered it
is.
was a plant. I
It
didn't know it was a
is.
dinosaur. But I think this is really. It really stands out that it works with Intrepid paleontologist, or I think it's Intrepid something from this set. The Manadork that lets you exile. It is a paleontologist. Yeah. So like these are both like incredibly good. Yeah, these are both incredibly good Manadorks you can play in your dinosaur deck. Then apparently Topiary Stomp is a dinosaur too, so you have access to a lot of good ramp to be able to access your big dinosaurs. Maybe that archetype will actually be good.
Maybe
that's quite interesting.
Like,
I didn't realize Topiary Stomper being a dinosaur could game changer.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I don't remember, but I think there's a 5-mana dinosaur that seems kind of good.
Yeah.
Like
there's the 6-mana one as well with Discover.
Well, I mean,
I don't know what it's called.
With enough ramping, you can just
please.
play like enough. If you play a 5-drop that's playable and constructed on turn 3 on the play, you're probably winning.
Yeah, I have to imagine so. Yeah.
I think if there's enough dinosaurs, even if a lot of them are like medium, like I mean, there was 3 mana 4/3 that does something. For example, I just saw it in Mango's screen. 3 mana red 4/3 that does something. Like these kind of cards, you don't need these cards to be particularly good. Like Trashing Brontodon,
fast enough.
If you're just fast enough,
they were the Trashing Brontodon.
Like if you play turn 2 Brontodon on the play, well, that's good enough. Like I think we could see. Yeah, whenever play cast a spell. If it's not the turn...
Okay, that's not very good, I guess.
Well, it's still fine,
like,
though.
Brontodon is good enough.
No, because this punishes...
Well, it's not going to fit in the decks you want to play it in.
Well,
right?
it's good against instant removal. 4 damage is a lot. That's what it does, right? Yeah, if your opponent casts a spell... I don't know. I think cards like this might actually be good enough if you have enough acceleration. Like, turn 2, 4/3 is... the deck's fast. And I will have to see every single... This one, the 5/3 for 5 mana. So it's 5/3, 5 mana. All the dinosaurs you control have haste, which is good ability. And then, on each combat... It makes a 3/3 basically for 2 turns, and that's a lot. That's 8 power.
Wow, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's a powerful card. It's a dinosaur. If you play this in turn 3, I mean that's powerful. Like, I'm not saying you win in the game, but that's very good for standard, and you don't need that many.
They haven't released the Gruul Uncommon of the set yet.
Well, if it's a dinosaur that's playable in the standard, we might just have a deck, and we'll have to see all the dinosaurs.
I could really see that. Yeah, this is a lot of payoffs that I hadn't realized quite how many.
Red Green Dinosaur was a standard deck for a while in standard when Ixalan was legal. You had the Marauder.
Yep.
Regisaur Alpha. Yeah,
but this will be more unique because now they have the exclusivity on Llanowar Elves department. Like, if your deck has Llanowar Elves and the opponents cannot have it, that's a big reason to play dinosaurs. Like, a very big one. And I think we could see that. I mean...
Yeah. They're also more multi-dimensional. Like, the old Red-Green Dinosaurs deck was very much like classic, I play a big creature and turn it sideways sort of deck. Like, that people talk about as a joke. But, like, these Red-Green decks seem a lot more multi-dimensional. Like, Intrepid Paleontologist lets you play actual grindy games, for example. I think, this seems very promising to me.
Yeah, obviously depends. All depends on how many dinosaurs that are good are played. Like if there's one that's like a mythic that's good and constructed, that's enough. I would say. I don't know.
Isn't the 5 mana? Is the 5 mana thing you mentioned?
I think a little.
Mythic? Is that a dinosaur?
It's a dinosaur. I mean,
no, it's a rare
guy.
I think if this is I think it needs one more, like one that's very good, and 4 or 3. That would be a deal breaker. I will say. Obviously, they're gonna be careful with those cards. But I think they might have printed one.
Yeah.
Like they test these cards, but it's also fine to have a dinosaur tier 1 deck or whatever, Like it's not.
I think that would be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool, and I mean,
there are obviously some support spells as well. Yeah, like.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cards that are good enough, but dinosaur.
Yeah, the 5 mana mythic we were talking about, the 5/5. It is a dinosaur. It's a dinosaur dragon.
Yeah. Well, they have a 2 mana 3/2 dinosaur.
Yeah.
That's like a Drazi Mimic.
3/2 trample.
Yeah, it's like a Drazi Mimic. Trample. Yeah.
Oh wow, it's a Drazi Mimic.
Yeah, that's very good. I mean, Drazi Mimic was a good card with big creatures. So you play these and you play 5 mana dinosaur, and suddenly you drop attack for 5.
Yeah, if they make a land that adds 2 mana for dinosaurs.
But this is, I mean, 2 mana 3/2 trample is not exactly embarrassing. Obviously not great, but I mean, compared to Mouse Good Dread Knight, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward for the whole spoiler because I think this might be cool.
It's kind of exciting.
It's coming out soon because the set, I think, like the pre-release is not this weekend, the one after. So I'm assuming that next Monday we'll have the full set.
Yep, sounds about right. I don't know. This set is just so deep. This honestly might be Also, that's kind of funny because Lost Caverns of Ixalan, they're going into the depths and whatnot. But this honestly might be the deepest set in standard. Like, it just seems there's just so many playables. Like, we talked about all of these. I think it's more than we normally do. It just keeps going. Like, we didn't even talk about like a third of the cards that are standard relevant, let alone for other formats.
It's a shame that it's not gonna be like it's not gonna fit into any Pro Tour.
Yeah, so but I mean, there's RCQ season.
That is very surprising to me.
Yeah, no.
Like not having a Pro Tour similar to a set. I actually thought they would do something. Like I don't know, yeah, but.
I mean, there's still the RC and RCQ season.
I know, but it's cool to have a Pro Tour of every set. Like you will never remember, Worlds. The Pro Tour of this set because it will not exist. That set. I like to, when I talk about sets, I always remember the Pro Tour of the set. But this time I cannot.
Right, especially for this set. I don't know. It's wow.
I totally agree with you because there's just not gonna be like no. I don't want to say nobody will remember this set in 10 years, but I like remember. I don't know. I'm on Cat because I don't know. Jerry T won the PT. I don't know. I think.
Well, that's pretty specific though, right? I mean, I assume most players, even competitive ones, don't specifically recall sets through the lens of the Pro Tour. I mean, a lot of competitive players try to, but so... I mean, from a standard player's perspective, I think this is really exciting. Yeah, like I don't know, even if there's no Pro Tour, I'll probably play a lot with these cards. I hope a lot of other people do too.
Are you ready to wrap up?
I guess so. It's just so much. Oh my
God. I mean, it was a Christmas, right? Christmas set release.
What are you doing this weekend? Is there any magic on your horizon?
Sure, I don't think so.
Yeah, me neither. I will probably play some games. Looking forward to the Eternal Weekend. But yeah, there's actually nothing, right? There's no arena qualifier. There's no Mox Showcase qualifier. This is
as far as I know. Yeah, there are there's two P2Q on Magic Online, like the huge RCQ, Modern and Sealed.
Right.
I will be
In my experience, go ahead.
No, I'll play a vintage local event where the main event is the communal lunch, and we'll play some proxy vintage. I'll be playing the real cards. I was happy to bring my Power 9 around for a walk. But that's about it. I guess I haven't mentioned that last weekend I played a couple of tournament. Maybe some people want to hear about. I guess I was supposed to say that at the beginning, but I forgot. But yeah, I played the Timur Adventure deck that I have very high praise the week before, but I failed terribly. And I think it's actually interesting. I really should have mentioned at the beginning because what happened was I cut Murktide Region for Shredders and just Quest and Druid, and I got paired against Burn and Mill, which used to be a very good matchup for Murktide, and now weren't anymore because I kept on drawing Quest and Druid, which were very poor in that matchup. So, the changes I made me maybe better against For Color and Scam, but much worse against the previous good matchup, so it's very hard to balance Murktide, keeps on struggling for me. And in the team event, I played Pauper, and yeah, I mean, that's it, Pauper. Pauper Talk has been banned from the podcast, though, so can't continue saying anything about that.
That's Anthony's victory, yeah?
Yes.
We can only talk about Pioneer not Pioneer, Pauper if Anthony isn't here. So.
He's got to protest.
Yeah, not on my watch.
Okay, so I want to ask something because in my experience, the weekend before per release, there's always nothing. I don't know if it's coincidence, but it's like the third time. Like I'm like, there's nothing this weekend, and then just before.
That is normal, yes. Most event organizers understand that there's a lot of hype about new sets, and it tends to affect people's willingness to play those events. I think, especially if there are about to be new cards coming out, it feels like it's a dead format.
Okay, and there's the Modern Showcase the week after. So,
I don't know. It's just always
Okay.
It's easy. It's easy. It's usually better to stay clear of pre-releases, I think.
Yep. All right. I think let's call it a day.
All right.
Let's see if I can win some matches in the league, and I will let you know next week how it went.
Tonight
we're
rooting for Javier.
Yep.
On twitch.tv/AnZD.
Well, I mean, yeah, but they're gonna listen tomorrow, so it's time traveling to the past.
I know, but I believe you can watch the YouTube videos that Anzi posts.
Yeah, but only
later.
watch if I don't make an embarrassing play. if I embarrass myself, don't watch. It's not needed.
It's okay. We will not
We'll
know
see.
when you make that.
No. I mean, I think actually last week's match they were actually very good, and they recommend. I think that's a good show because they put 4 players and 2 comment and 2 play. So it's like always the people commenting are very aware of like the metagame things or whatever. Like, and we talk about like why did you pick the deck and the other way. You discuss with your competitors about the metagame and why did you pick a deck. So I think it's very interesting to watch. I mean, it's a show I have watched it when I wasn't playing it, so that's how you can tell I actually like it quite a bit.
That's an endorsement, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all right.
Okay, thank you everybody for watching. Again, we haven't mentioned yet the patreon.com/carnies. There's no Patreon this week, but regardless of that, you can go and join and share your decks and talk about whatever formats you like. And yeah, that is it. Thank you everybody for listening. I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Bye.